What are the spiritual weapons that we can use in our fight against temptations? A desert is none other than a barren wasteland. It is not a good place to live. There are desert creatures, insects, venomous snakes, and wild animals. Frequently, there can be sandstorms inside the desert. If you are lost in a desert, the biggest challenge is finding food and water. The deserts receive only about 10 inches of rainfall each year. So, there is low humidity and there is almost no moisture anywhere. If there is a little water in the desert, it will evaporate faster than it is received. There are no fruit-bearing trees. We find there only the cactus plants with thorns. In some deserts, the daytime temperature can reach up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. According to the facts, it is very difficult to survive in a desert. Therefore, desert is an extremely vulnerable place for human beings. In the Gospel today, we hear Jesus spending 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. Jesus came out of the waters of baptism at River Jordan, and after that, it was the Holy Spirit who led Jesus into the desert. Why did the Holy Spirit send Jesus into the desert? It was because Jesus was to be tried and tested before he began his public ministry. For 40 days, Jesus lived in this vulnerable place called desert. Jesus was amidst wild animals. What did Jesus do during these 40 days and 40 nights? Jesus was praying and fasting. On the other hand, we find Satan tempting Jesus. In the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, we find 3 temptations of Jesus. But it was not that Jesus was tempted only for 3 times. Jesus was tempted throughout his life, but he never fell into sin. Jesus got this formation of defeating temptations while he was in the desert for 40 nights and 40 days. Jesus fasted and prayed. Jesus practiced self-control. Jesus tamed himself. It was this desert experience that gave Jesus the best formation to defeat the temptations throughout his life. Fasting plus prayer gave Jesus the power and might to fight the temptations. Just as Jesus was tempted in the desert during these 40 days and 40 nights, we too are taking a period of 40 days to enable us to resist temptations like Jesus. We call this grace-filled 40 days Lenten season. Lent is the wonderful time that we enter into the desert of our life. Jesus was led by the Spirit to that vulnerable place called desert. We too go into the desert in our life so that we may know our weak areas and be trained to defeat temptations. These 40 days will also become very difficult for us. We will feel the same vulnerability in our lives. But we must remember that Lent is the training period for our spiritual battle. 40 days in Lent will help us to endure the time of testing whenever it comes. During these 40 days of Lent, we prepare to celebrate the Paschal mystery of Christ, passion, death, and resurrection. During this period, we have the opportunity to face our weaknesses and our vices, and we can really strengthen our spirituality. During this training period of defeating temptations, we are given 3 weapons. They are prayer, fasting, and abstinence. They help us to purify ourselves and to win over the temptations of Satan. By our baptism, we are given the power to resist temptations, to say no to Satan and all his works. But most of the time, we forget that we have enough strength to resist temptations and we just give in to sin. But if we practice prayer, fasting, and abstinence, it gives us the inner strength to defeat temptations. Therefore, during these 40 days, let us go into the desert of our life. Then we can identify our weak areas. Let us try to fast every Friday and share our meals with the poor. Let us abstain from excessive entertainment. Let us try to abstain from meat and sweets. let us also sacrifice and give alms. Then we will be able to practice self-mastery throughout these 40 days. So pray, fast and abstain, then you can defeat any kind of temptation.